We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, welcome everyone to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani, and you're watching us live this morning. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe you're in the bed, maybe you're eating a bowl of cereal, maybe you are on drive time as you go to work and you're listening wherever you may be from. We welcome you this morning. We ask that you let us know where you're chiming in from, what city, what state, what country. We want to take the time to acknowledge you. Listen, before we get started, we want you to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you connect with those who are a part of your community so that they can hear something that may be inspirational and pivotal for them in their life and in their relationship. Guys, we are in a new series. It is entitled Before You Cheat. It is a 4-part series. Yesterday, we dealt with part 1, and we were really beginning to unpack some things that you need to be aware of before you cheat, so that hopefully you prevent yourself from walking down that path. I'm sure if you spoke to somebody, like if you've been in that situation where you've experienced it, whether you've been on the contributor or the recipient side, I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom that you can give to somebody who may be even deliberating back and forth. You know, should I do this? Should I not? I'm in a lonely space. I'm in a frustrated space. Whatever their reason or motivation is, I'm sure you could impart into them some wisdom that may, hopefully cause them to change course and do something different. And maybe some of the wisdom you're giving them is what we're sharing in this show. And so that's why we're glad that you tune in every single morning. And so without further ado, we're going to dive right in. There's so much to cover here today. And so let's go to the first one. I think these are going to be really, really, really pivotal and important. The first thing is what you should know before you cheat is that you will lose your moral authority. Now, we know that there are many people who have a high standard of morality and ethics, maybe a spiritual leader, but if that's not your role, position, or title, there's a certain level of character and integrity that we all operate in. We all live according to some type of moral code, and there is a moral compass within us, whatever that level of morality may be. And so when you decide to go down this path for whatever reason, you will lose your moral authority in the eyes and in the sight of others. And so when you lose it, it's difficult to regain it because people will look at you through the lens of what you have previously done. And so think about a parent to a child that says, do what I say, not as I do, right? That typically doesn't work because children do what you do. And when you say one thing and do another, you may lose your moral authority in the eyes of a child, right? Likewise, in relationships, it works the same way. You come into that relationship believing that your spouse or your partner operates and functions in a particular way, has a certain standard, has a certain belief, a certain code, right? A culture in which you engage in that particular relationship. And once you step away from that moral code, it can crush your partner and cause them to look at you differently. And now they always look in with a type of expression on their face and questioning everything that you say and do. And it's just hard, not that they can't do it, but it's hard to look at you separate from the act because they didn't anticipate it. Now, what we find is that a lot of times what makes this so devastating for a partner is that they have made the mistake of putting a person on a pedestal. And it sounds good to say, oh man, I put my spouse, my wife, my husband on this pedestal. I had this idea of them being this, that, and the other. And when they step off of that pedestal, it literally crushes that partner. The problem is putting them on the pedestal in the first place, because what you're doing is you're making them greater, higher than their humanity. And it leaves them with little room To stumble, to fall. Now, obviously, we're talking about an affair, which is a complete, betrayal of a relationship. But putting someone on a pedestal is just not a good thing to do. And so we encourage you, take your spouse off the pedestal, allow them to be a human that has shortcomings and that has all types of idiosyncrasies. Don't have an expectation of perfection, because it can wind up impacting you, let alone when an affair takes place. That is a huge blow, and it's hard to recover from that. And so we're encouraging you, please, if you're vacillating back and forth, should I go down this path? Is it worth it? It is not worth it. It is not worth it, because not only will you lose your moral authority for your spouse and your children, but also for those who have a high level of respect for you. It's just not worth it, guys. And so we encourage you, please do not do it. Do not do it. Let's go to the next one. You will create trust issues for your spouse. Now, we know this to be the case. And one of the challenges is that, listen, yes, I did it, but I promise I wouldn't do it anymore. Yes, I lied about it, but I'm telling you, I'm telling the truth now. And somehow we just expect our spouse just to believe because we've made some decision to be different. But the reality is, they can't trust you until you prove yourself to be trustworthy over a period of time. It takes time. Doing the right thing once is not enough. It is about your consistency. It is about your follow through. It is about a journey that they take with you, and they're observing you, right? And they're seeing, wow, something is shifting, something is changing. He's not, or she's not infrequent in his stance or position or lifestyle. There's a consistency, there's a pattern, there's habitual habits that we're looking at that we can now say, yeah, I can begin to trust. But what happens is when you lose the trust of your spouse, not only do you lose that trust, but you have to understand what it's doing to that person. They begin to question everything. They begin to question your motive, your intent, your reasoning for everything. And so it takes so much work to regain that trust. We know people who have experienced affairs 3 years ago, still in pain. 10 years ago, still can't trust. 30 years ago, and still questioning, one's motive and intent. And so, listen, if you're considering going down this path, I'm telling you now, it's not something that you want to do, because it does not serve you long term. All right, let's go to the next one. You will lose your standard of living. Now, let's pause on this for a second. Many years ago, I wrote the book, Pimping from the Pulpit to the Pews, Exposing and Expelling the Spirit of Lust in the Church. That's right, Pimping from the Pulpit to the Pews. If you don't have that book, please get the book. It's a powerful book that talks about lust and sexual perversion in the church. Let the church say amen. And so there's a chapter in here, and we talk about Adam. And in the name of the section within this chapter is entitled, Gaining So Little to Lose So Much. Now, we know that Adam was the first man on the earth, and God, he created this perfect being called Adam, but we know Adam fell. But prior to the fall, you have to understand, Adam had money. He had a lot of money. It was called the provision of the garden, because God placed him in the garden, and in the garden he had everything he needed to sustain himself. So his money was strong. It was tight. He was a high value man according to worldly standards. He also had power, right? Because he had dominion over everything in the earth. God gave him authority and power to rule and to govern everything. The man had money, the man had power, and he also had sex because God gave him Eve. So he was ordained to engage in that because he was married. Now, isn't that what many men are pursuing today? Power, money, sex, PMS. Right? And so here we have this man who has it all and is given strict instructions on how to live his life, what to do, what not to do. Adam, I give you all of this over here. Just stay away from this one thing. Oftentimes when we say I do, God is giving us all of the benefits and all of the pleasures that come along with marriage, but he instructs us, particularly in Proverbs. It's a phenomenal book where it gives warnings against infidelity. He says, you can have all of this, but this one thing. But all of this wasn't enough. He had to pursue what God told him not to pursue. And as a result, it led to the fall of man. And what happens is he gains so little to lose so much. We're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. Stay with us. We're talking about what you should know before you cheat. Be right back. Hey guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're engaging in a conversation, and we're talking about how Adam lost so much in his pursuit for something that didn't belong to him. Well, what did he lose? Well, first of all, God kicked him out of the garden, right? So he lost his provision. His money was gone. And because of that, he lost his dominion in the earth, right? Because God gave him rulership and dominion and authority over everything in the garden. And because he did not have that, he lost his power. And he also lost his connection, if you will, the way it once was, with Eve, right? So he gained so little to lose so much. And what we're telling you is that when you engage in an affair, we talk about this 80-20 rule all the time, how you have about 80%, but you're in pursuit of the 20. Now, that's just a general statistic. It may not be that at all. You may have everything. We know many people who said, you know what, my marriage was great. Everything was popping. Everything was flowing. I wasn't denied anything. We just had this great connection, but there was something else I wanted. There was something else I was interested in, attracted to, and began to pursue. And all of this potentially was lost because of one act, or one relationship, or one bad decision that led to another that bad decision. And then now I'm trapped in a cycle of perversion that really betrays the trust of my spouse and compromises the integrity of the relationship. And so guys, you need to know that there's a potential that you can lose your standard of living. But what does that mean? Now, if you decide to stay together, let's just say if your spouse wants to stay in that marriage, it doesn't mean that for a period of time that marriage will remain the same. There's many things that come as consequences for one's actions. Now, we know that many people have lost their job. Depending upon the career that you are in, depending upon the industry, depending upon the rules of that particular company, and I've worked for companies where individuals, employees were involved in an affair and they lost their job, gone, terminated, right? Thank you for being honest and sharing, or we discovered this and you have about 3 hours to pack your stuff and go. Yeah, it's you're talking about a serious consequence. So there's financial consequences attached to the affair. That is a lifestyle shift and change, because if you're working a job and as a earner of income, you have a consistent, and you have a what's the word I'm looking for? A major role in the financial contribution to the household, and now you don't have a job because of an affair. That is a huge blow that will shift your standard of living. You may lose access to your community. Now, we've talked about this a number of times, right? So what does it mean to lose access to your community? Number one, you may have to relocate. What if there was an affair with someone in your subdivision or in your neighborhood or in your community? And, you know, when we go out, there that partner is, or that former partner is, in the school because their children go to school there. Or we went out to dinner and there they were on the other side of the restaurant. You know, wherever I go to the supermarket and I'm in aisle 3 and they're turning aisle 4. It's just too much of a trigger and I've got to get out of here. We've got to move and relocate because I can't deal with this anymore. You may lose access to your community. You may also lose access to your friends. Now think about it. There are many of you who are in relationship with your spouse, and because of that, you have relationships with other couples. And when you're going through hardship, it really impacts the couple dynamic that you once had. So there are no more double dates. There are no more vacations together. There are no more holidays that you spend together. There are no more occasional visits to the household where you two engage, because one relationship is falling apart at its seams, and now it's weird and uncomfortable, and I'm trying to cover and hide and protect you, but then I got to fake in front of everybody. And it's just, we see this thing happen all the time. It's possible that you may lose your community if it is your church, right? Because now I can't even go anymore, because if I go now and maybe the affair partner was at the church, or maybe because of the crisis we're going through, I'm not in a space where I even want to go. I just need to separate myself. All types of things happen. There's so much that can be lost when you make the decision to do that. You may lose access to how your spouse shows up for you in the marriage. Prior to the discovery of the affair, there was a flow. There was this dance between you and your partner. There was this lifestyle, whether that may have been certain conversations that you would engage in, certain rituals that you would have, date nights, just enjoying life together. But there's a breach and break in the relationship when the discovery of the affair happens, and now there's an emotional disconnect and a separation. You're on one end of the room, I'm on the other, and we're just not connected. The way that I served you, the things that I did, the way I supported you and accommodated you, I'm not there right now, and it can compromise your standard of living. These are all the things. Now, what if the person leaves? What if there's a divorce? How does this change your standard of living? Well, number one, you may lose your home, right? Because now we're getting divorced. We're not in the same space. Now I have to downgrade, move to an apartment, or sleep on somebody's couch, or whatever it is. I've lost, almost like when Adam was kicked out of the garden. Oftentimes his spouse can be kicked out of their bedroom, kicked out of their home, kicked out of a standard of living that is compromised for a period of time. It's just not worth it to gain so little, to lose so much. A momentary thrill or a short season of pleasure or escape or whatever the case may be, especially if you decide to stay together, that journey is going to be long and hard. And so because of that, it is just not worth it, folks. I hope this is making sense. We're trying to give you information that will be impactful so that you don't go down certain paths that other people have gone down. Listen, I want to take a moment to just acknowledge those who are here. So Clarence, we see you. Fedelina, B. Owens, Rick, good to see you. Kia, everybody's in the building this morning. Charmaine from Trinidad, good to see you guys. I'm gonna go to some of the questions. Bible Children's Stories B says, if a boyfriend cheats and asks for forgiveness, what should the hurt partner do to make sure he doesn't cheat again? There's nothing you can do to make sure that that person doesn't cheat again, because there was nothing that you could have done that could have kept them from cheating in the first place. I need you to understand what's really behind that question. What I'm hearing that's behind that question, well, what didn't I do the first time? Did I not do this? Did I not do enough of that? How did I fall short? How can I love more? How can I provide more? How can I be more to prevent my partner from cheating? And I'm not suggesting that you can't be better and show up in a better way. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. So continue to be the best version of yourself. Continue to show up as best you can in that relationship. But what I'm saying is, even if you did, that individual has to own 100% their reason for why they walked down that path. Because at the end of the day, cheating was an option, right? There were other options that he or she could have walked down that wasn't an affair, that could have been the result, let's just say, of your inability or your lack thereof. But I don't want to attach what you have to do more of to prevent your partner from cheating. Now, if you're saying, what do I have to do more of to be in a better relationship? That's one thing. But there's nothing you can do, nothing, that will keep somebody from doing what they choose to do. That choice has to become internal. So we see individuals that put so many, almost like handcuffs on their partner, control behavior, monitor everything, they're on them like white on rice, right? And now you're not going to cheat because I've imprisoned you to a particular lifestyle. Well, who wants that? Who wants to be with somebody where they've got to force them to do the right thing? You want to be with somebody who wants to do the right thing, who wants to show up, who wants to be not only apologetic and remorseful, but someone who will repent for their actions, which means turning in another direction and showing up in a different way. So I hope that kind of answers your questions. There's a few more questions we'll get to you on the other side of this break. Listen, you're watching the Couples Academy Show, folks. Be right back. Hey guys, we're back. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about the topic before you cheat, what you need to know, what you need to do, what you need to be aware of so that you do not go down that particular path. Charmaine says, what about passwords on cell phones saying men need privacy? Listen guys, there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. It all comes down to motive and intent. I have a password on my phone, but my wife knows my password. I have a password on my email, but my wife do I have a password on my email? Yeah, of course, right. My wife knows my password, right? I have a password on my social media accounts. My wife knows my password. There's nothing that I have that I'm secretly compartmentalizing and keeping from my partner. It goes back to the same people who have nothing to hide nothing. And when you are hiding something, or if you lean into this need for privacy, then the question becomes, well, what are you hiding? What is it that you don't want me to know? What is it that it's nothing? I just like my private. Okay, well, you can be creating an insecurity, right? And you could be creating skepticism and doubt in your partner because of this need to have your own privacy. And the reality is you have two different types of people. You have individuals who are open books and they're just like, listen, I have nothing to hide. Hey, do you want to see my phone? Check it. Hey, can I see your phone? Because I need to grab a picture. Sure, take it. Like other people, can I see? What did you need my phone for? Well, hold on now. Wait. Give me a couple minutes. And now I'm deleting and I'm moving things over and I'm closing things. All right, there you go. And now the partner's looking at the phone and the other partner's over your shoulder looking at what you're looking at. And it's just like, really? Okay, so you're demonstrating that you're doing something that is kind of suspect. And how are we going to have a relationship where you're compartmentalizing, keeping separate aspects of your life from who I am, but we're one? Well, how are we just one physically? No, we're one in many regards, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically, in all ways. So if we're one, what's going on? maybe we need to talk about, what we believe as a couple, what works for us as a couple. And so when these things happen, it's not a guarantee that a person is involved in any type of betrayal, but these are characteristic of those who are. And so listen, one of the other points I definitely want to cover in terms of, what you should do or what you should know before you cheat. Here's another one. You will spend years trying to rebuild your life. I need you to understand that. So if that affair was a one-time experience, if that affair was short-lived and it was just for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, let's just say it went into a few months. Let's just say it was a year or 2 or 3, but we've been married for 30. So in the grand scheme of things, it was just a sliver of time. Well, what you did in that sliver of time, it can potentially take years to rebuild. Your life will take years to rebuild. Years, folks. It will take years for you to recover emotionally. Not just you, but your partner who was violated by the betrayal. Walls are up, defenses are up. I don't feel safe with you. It takes years for some, especially if you're not going through a recovery process. And here's the interesting part. Overwhelmingly, most don't. Most figure, we can do this on our own. We smart enough. We can figure this out. And everything you're doing the wrong thing. And you think if you do the wrong thing harder, if you do the wrong thing longer, if you have a greater commitment to doing the wrong thing, somehow something will shift and things will turn out well. Well, no. If you're doing the wrong thing, you're going to continue to get more of the wrong thing. That's why going to counseling is so critically important. But it may take years to restore relationships. Think about it. We've said this before. When you are unfaithful on your partner, you are also unfaithful on family, on friends, on community, because everyone is affected in some way, in different ways by what you've done. And so to regain some of those relationships may take a considerable amount of time. So you have to realize that you're not just trying to restore the relationship with your partner, but there are all types of relationships that you have to begin to restore. And so showing up in the right way for them is critically important. It may take you years to rebuild your character, right? That's your integrity. That is who you are on the inside. That is what you demonstrate on the outside. These are the things that are critically important to rebuild your character. Then it takes possibly years to rebuild trust. The need for trust in a relationship is critically important. And when you have that, everything begins to shift and turn around and change. It may take years to truly get forgiveness from your spouse. We find that many people really struggle in this particular space and don't have what it is that they need to begin to trust and believe again. So it's just not worth it. Something that happens in a momentary period of time, whether that momentary period was a one-time occurrence, whether it was short-lived because it was a few weeks, it was a month or so, or it was a few years, it takes a considerable amount of time to get back to the place that you were. And guess what, folks? It's just not worth it. I hope this is making sense because we want you to consider these things. Now, many of you who are watching this may say, well, I've already been down that path. We're on the other side of the fence or the offense. And so, yeah, what you're saying resonates because that's the seat that I'm sitting in right now. And I'm trying to figure out how to get into a better place with my spouse. And so this is why we say Couples Academy. We're talking about the infidelity pandemic and how you have to show up and you got to come and get your vaccine to prevent you from being vulnerable to anything else. Well, set up a discovery call. Come and get that vaccine. That vaccine may show up in the form of a 3-day marriage intensive. It may show up in the form of weekly sessions. It may show up in the form of a retreat, but you got to do something. It may show up in the form of a last chance weekend, but you got to be willing to do something different to have something different. Listen, guys, I hope you're getting something out of this. We appreciate you for tuning in today. Tomorrow, we're going into part 3. We're giving you more, and we're not going to stop, right? I'm going to be the last man standing. Listen, I want you to share this with your community so that not only will your household change, but every single household that you're connected to will begin to change so that change can begin to take place all around us. Love you guys. We will see you tomorrow on the Couples Academy Show.